Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you for joining our information webinar on the COVID-19 vaccine. This is on both Zoom, which we have sent a link out for, and it's also streaming live on our Facebook page. The purpose of the event is purely to provide you, the audience, with information about the vaccine, or the vaccines rather, that are currently being offered in the UK, both from a medical perspective. So we have Dr. Siddiqi, and we have Imam Asad, or Maulana Asad, who some of you may recognize. He has delivered Jummahs at Neeli Mosque, and inshallah will continue to do so. The format of this will be Imam Sahib will deliver a session from the religious perspective, Dr. Siddiqi from the medical perspective, and then we will open to a Q&A session. You may either speak your question or you can type your questions, and that can be either on Zoom or on Facebook. Inshallah, I'll try to keep an eye on it and make sure that we don't miss anything. In terms of the time, we're hoping to have this done by latest 7:45, but so that we're done just before Maghrib, inshallah. And hopefully, if you need to, you may rewatch this on Facebook. It will be available on Facebook, and we'll also get it uploaded, inshallah, to the YouTube channels of Neeli Mosque and AskDoc. But if we have any issues with that, we will let you know. Okay, so I'm going to pass you on now to Imam Sahib, Imam Asad, who is from Bolton and has kindly joined us. And inshallah, he will give us some information with regards to the vaccination from an Islamic perspective. Actually, just before you start, Imam Sahib, also please, can all those attendees in Zoom keep yourselves on mute, and please keep your videos off. And if you do want to ask this question, like I said, put it into the chat page and we'll, inshallah, I'll allow you to speak should you want to ask the question. But please keep it as a question, not long-winded comments. We just don't have time for that. Okay, I will be quiet now and I will pass us over to Imam Asad. Jazakallah khair.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء المرسلين أما بعد. First of all, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah to everyone for attending, and Jazakallah khair for Brother Soban, to Brother Soban for arranging this. I look forward to hearing from Dr. Siddiqi, inshallah, myself. So I don't want to take too much of your time. I just want to mention 3 things, inshallah. The first thing I want to discuss is what is the Islamic perspective on taking medication, right? But before we begin this, I just want to mention a few things. Firstly, the issue of, taking the COVID vaccine, it's moved beyond, one would think it's just a simple medical issue, but I think it's moved beyond medicine and it's moved into, it's become a religious issue, and more than that, I think it's become an extremely politicized issue. But as Muslims, we should look at everything with adl, with justice, and that means looking at things with nuance. Right? So we don't just become one-sided, right or wrong, black and white. We don't look at it like this. For everything, we turn to professionals and experts in that field. So for this, we rely on the medical community and the doctors, and we seek their advice for this. In Islam, we have every single ruling that we have in Islam. It's there to, why Allah makes something halal or haram. It serves a purpose, a greater purpose than just that act itself, right? So stealing is haram. Why? Because it serves a greater purpose of protecting society, right? Killing, murder is haram because it protects the greater society of human life, right? It protects society at large and human life. So whenever we look at anything, we look at what is the objective of the Sharia behind this thing, or what would the Sharia want from this. One of the greatest maqasid, one of the greatest sort of objectives of the Sharia is to protect human life, right? That's why human life is so it's sacred. Human life is sacred. Now, with this in mind, that Sharia wants to protect human life, what do you think of what Sharia would want, or how it would want us to deal with an issue that has impacted over 110 million people, right? Directly, and indirectly is something that we can't quantify, right? The financial, economical, psychological, emotional impacts that it's had on individuals, on societies, on families, it's something we can't. So what do you think, how would the Sharia want us to deal with this, right? Of course, it would want us to protect human life. So that's just sort of a something I wanted for us to have a sort of food for thought. So now, majority of the ulama, they say that medicine, it's something that we should seek, right? And if it's available for us, then we should go and take it, right? Especially if it's going to protect human life. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said in the hadith that لِكُلِّ دَاءٍ دَوَاء, every sort of illness, there's cure for it. فَإِذَا أُصِيبَ دَوَاءُ الدَّاءِ بَرِئَ بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. When the cure matches the illness, then inshallah it will be cured. From this, we understand one thing, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is sort of encouraging that, you know, when you have an illness, then go seek this illness medication. But we know one thing, that our trust in Allah, in anything, should be in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first. Whenever we're ill, whenever we seek any, whether that's the COVID or, you know, cancer or a headache, any sort of medication we seek or treatment we seek, we should rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And our iman is in that health or sickness, it's all in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you know, at times, sometimes, you know, we the first thought we have is that let's go and try to take some medication. Of course we should, but before that we should know that this medication will only work when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intends it or wants it. So our iman is our tawakkul is upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then we go and seek it. But when we have the vaccine, we should go and seek it. Now, regarding this COVID vaccine, there's two issues which come up, right, regularly, and most commonly. First is it halal? And the second one is that what happens if I take it, all right, during my fast? Okay, so I'm just going to briefly answer these two issues, these questions, and then I'll hand you over to Dr. Siddiqi, inshallah. So the first thing is, vaccines, are they halal, right? Or more specifically, the question of, some of these vaccines, they have gelatin, right? If they have gelatin, are we allowed to take this or not as Muslims? What is gelatin? Gelatin, first of all, if it comes from halal animals, right, then it's not an issue, right? It becomes an issue when it's from, you know, pork gelatin, right? But we have a process, right, of you know, chemical transformation, right, which is known in the classical fiqh books as istihala, where one product or one substance, it goes through so much change that it becomes something else, right? Its properties change. So when, for example, we have alcohol, and we know alcohol, when it changes so much, that it becomes vinegar, and that's where we get vinegar from. And nobody, you know, argues that vinegar is haram. Why? Because the it's changed so much. It doesn't have to be 100%, you know, change, right? But there's enough change for it to be considered something else, right? I'm sure if you were to test the DNA, you'd find some similarity with vinegar. If you were to test the vinegar, you'd find some similarity with the alcohol. But there's been enough change for it to be declared halal now. Such is the case with the gelatin, right? When they use it in medicine, there's enough change for it to be declared, you know, enough medical change for it to be declared halal. But beyond this issue, even if we were to say that there's not enough change taking place, right? We know one thing for sure, that the Quran, it allows us to eat the dead, or so anything that's haram, right, to save our life, right, just to save a person individual life. Now, what do you think of a disease or an illness, or this COVID pandemic that's killing millions of lives, right? Of course, um, even if we were to argue that there's not enough change, because the darura, right, the need is so severe that we're allowed to take something that's that might not be considered halal, all right, in other circumstances, in normal circumstances, right? So therefore, if someone was to take it, then it would be completely fine, and there's no sin whatsoever. In fact, if someone doesn't take it, right, and there's possibility that he's endangering himself, right, he's endangering the elders, the others in those he's going to interact with in the masjid, outside, then perhaps this person could even be sinful, right, when the resources are available for him to protect himself, others, and a person does not take it, then you will be answerable for this. The second thing I want to answer is, are we allowed to take injections during fast? Right, most injections while a person is fasting do not break a person's fast. What breaks a person's fast is medication or food, right, that's entered through the nose or through the mouth, right? That's what breaks it. So if a person takes paracetamol, for example, through the mouth, it will break a person fast, right? But a person does not have to give the expiation, the kafara. A person just has to repeat the fast, and that's it, right? But with injection, injection doesn't break a person's fast anyway, right? Most injections. The only time an injection would break a person's fast, if it was taken directly into the stomach. But a COVID injection is taken inside in the arm, and that does not reach the stomach. Therefore, it does not break it. Secondly, it would only those type of injections would break a fast if there was sort of some nutritional value to it. It was taken as a sort of supplement to food, right? It was taken not as medication, but it was taken as, so a person doesn't feel the fast, right? As sort of nutrition. Okay, but if there's no, with the COVID, it's not a matter of nutrition, right? It's a matter of it's a medical sort of a injection. Therefore, it will not break a person's fast. If a person takes the injection, and after after taking the injection, becomes really weak, feels tired, feels ill, then a person can break the fast, and there's no sin whatsoever. Can break the fast, and take some food, have some food, drink, and make up for this fast. That's it, right? That's it. You will not have to give any expiation. You just have to give to make up for this fast whenever it's possible, whenever it's easy for a person, as soon as possible, preferably. I hope that answers the two questions. I'll just finish with the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Anas radiallahu anhu, he reports that a man came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that I have a camel or a horse or a ride. Should I just leave it and depend upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or should I tie the camel? Right? We have the expression tie your camel first and then have your reliance upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Iqilha wa tawakkal," that first go and tie your camel or your horse, right, and then depend on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we have vaccines, we have available to us, and we have doctors taking the time out to come and deliver information, right, answer questions, then we should use this opportunity and go for it, and definitely take the vaccine, inshallah. And then we rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لنا ولكم ولسائر المسلمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Awesome. Jazakallah khair, Imam Sab. In terms of questions, we will leave that till after Dr. Siddiqi's presentation, and we'll just do whether it be a religious question somebody has, or whether it be a medical question, we'll just do them all at the same time, inshallah. But Jazakallah khair for that, Imam Sab. We'll come back to you later on, inshallah. So I'm now going to pass over to Dr. Siddiqi. Dr. Siddiqui, you have a presentation I believe you'd like to share, so feel free to start when you're ready.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and Assalamu alaikum to everyone who's here. Thank you for coming along to this webinar. And if you want me to switch languages, just say so. I will speak in Urdu if you want me to speak in Urdu. Otherwise, I'm going to just do this in English for the time being. And thank you to the Neeli Masjid and Subhan for inviting me today. So I have a presentation here which will just help me with what information I need to give you. So I'm just going to start the presentation now. So I need to do this first, isn't it? Share screen, right? Okay. Can you see it? Can everyone see this?
Yes, we can see that. Thank you.
Okay. So the first thing is just going to, yeah. So the first thing is what is COVID-19 and what are the different types of vaccines? How do they work? What are the benefits and other issues related to the vaccines? So we all know what COVID-19 is, but just to refresh, this is a new virus which broke out towards the end of 2019 in China, and it has rapidly spread through the whole world. So within 3 months, the WHO declared it a pandemic. It's very closely related to the SARS virus, which was there in 2003, if some of you remember that. And also to the MERS virus, which is predominantly found in the Middle East. So the SARS virus has mutated into the SARS-CoV-2. It's very contagious, spreads really quickly, and it is obviously the biggest healthcare challenge that we are facing in our lives in every country possible. So this slide is slightly old. So there are 122 million, at the time of this slide, when it was made, there were 122 million cases. Obviously, that number has increased, especially because there is a current wave going on in India. So the numbers are increasing really rapidly there. And there have been we can say about 3 million deaths so far worldwide. And in the UK, we've had 4.2 million cases, which has increased since then, since the time the slide was made. And we are now about 127,000 deaths. So that is the severity of this virus and how it has rampaged throughout the whole world. Sorry, I'm just going to bring the next slide. Okay, and we know that in this country, we have found that ethnic minorities, which is why we are here today, the virus has impacted us disproportionately. And there are various factors for that. It is the kind of jobs that we do. So jobs like working in retail, taxi driving, bus driving, or jobs such where there is a lot of people contact makes you more susceptible to the virus. Our living conditions will in multi-generational households. So people are going in and out and they can be carrying the virus. So for instance, in families where there are grandparents living with grandchildren. So children we know are vectors for the virus. So they may not themselves be unwell, but they might bring it from school and they can pass it on to their adults, also the adults who are working outside the house. And then we tend to congregate. So our lifestyle is very much centered around socialization, meetings, going to the mosque, and getting together. So these are some of the factors. And we have found that people of the ethnic minorities tend to become very ill with this virus, much worse than the other races do. And there's some the reason for this is the underlying health conditions that are more prevalent in our communities. So things like diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, asthma. There are higher rates of hospitalization and much higher rates of ICU admission, and of course, higher rates of death too, unfortunately. So, towards the end of 2020, um, in very, very quick time, the world came together. All the resources were pooled, people worked together, the scientists, there was money available, and things had to move at a very, very fast pace to develop vaccines against this virus. So the first vaccine which was approved in the UK was the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine. And then we had that was at the beginning of December 2020. And the first person we know was vaccinated on the 8th of December. And then we had the AstraZeneca vaccine, which was approved towards the end of December. And that was rolled out in January 2021. Also Moderna, which was approved in January, and it has been rolled out. It has been started in Wales, so we don't have it yet in England, but we should be getting it soon over here. And there are some other vaccines in the pipeline, especially the Johnson and Johnson one, but we'll have to watch the space on that one. The Pfizer BioNTech, which was the first vaccine which was approved, had 44,000 people in the trial, and it was found to be 95% effective. Two doses were recommended at 3 weeks apart. Logistically, it's a bit of a difficult vaccine to distribute and to administer because it needs to be stored at -70 degrees. Quite a fragile vaccine. It's made with a new technology, which is the mRNA technology, and it introduces a part of the genetic material of the virus in the form of a small RNA code. And then we have the AstraZeneca vaccine, which was developed in the UK by the scientists in Oxford University. This employs a slightly different type of technology to the Pfizer, but the technology that is there in AstraZeneca is a very tried and tested one where there's a viral vector which is given. So in this case, there is an adenovirus which is made from a chimpanzee cell, and that has the code which is injected into our bodies. Again, the trial had a significant number of people, was done in UK and Brazil, and there's some variability in the effectiveness, as you probably have heard in the news, with the half dose being given to some study subjects and then the full dose that seemed to be more effective, and the effectiveness with the full dose in the first dose and the full dose in the second dose seem to be a little bit less. We don't know the exact reasons for this, but and that's what is contributing to the variability of the effectiveness. Again, 2 doses, 4 weeks apart, but that has now changed. It is 4 to 12 weeks apart. It seems to work better at 12 weeks. And this is a DNA vaccine, and it has the DNA code to build the spike protein. I will explain that later on. I'm just trying to get through the slides. so that you have an idea of what we can cover. And then we have the Moderna vaccine, which is made in the United States, very similar to Pfizer. Again, it needs to be stored at ultra high temperatures, and it is also a very effective vaccine. So these vaccines, people think they are undercooked, they have been rushed through, and they may not be, fully developed. But we have a very, very robust and a very good MHRA in this country, which is the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency. It's an independent agency, and they have a very thorough way of approving vaccines or approving any medication. Also, the JCVI, which is the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunization, has been working with the MHRA, and they have been involved with the approval and the rollout of the vaccine. So the fatwas and the other bit that Imam Sahab has already covered, I can go through that as well if you want me to later on. So what are we trying to do with the vaccines? Why are they so important? The first thing for any viral infection or a disease like this to come to an end is when enough number of people have now got immunity to it, either through the wild infection or through vaccination, and that is called herd immunity. So if there are enough number of people who are immune, the virus doesn't find new people to infect, and therefore it dies out, and that's how this comes to an end. So the vaccine is one of the ways we achieve herd immunity. It protects you and the community and those who cannot have the vaccine for whatever reason. So the less it spreads, the fewer number of people will fall ill. So it reduces spread through reduced viral load. We don't know if it reduces transmission to nothing, but there has certainly been a reduced transmission that we can see following the vaccination program. Okay, so I've already said this, immunity is by exposure to illness or by immunization. So Sweden had done an experiment of trying to achieve herd immunity by exposure to illness, and it has not been a successful experiment. We know that this will cause many serious illnesses, deaths, and our health systems will be completely overwhelmed. There'll be no place in the hospitals if we just allow the infection to run wild in the country. So again, it gives you only temporary immunity, which we reckon at the moment lasts for about 5 to 6 months with a COVID infection. New strains are coming along, so we need vaccines to be able to fight against these new strains. Side effects, sore arms, slight temperature, body ache, fatigue, headache, all these are quite short-lived, and 2 or 3 days later you are much better. Like with all vaccinations, medications, you can have an allergic reaction. And if you are allergic to any of the components, then you must let the doctors know or discuss any allergies that you have with the doctors before you take the vaccine. You can be slightly worse after the second dose because your body has been primed and it kind of knows virus, so it reacts a bit more robustly to it when the second dose is given. And vaccine and blood clots. Now, this is a very, very hot topic at the moment, and everyone is worrying about it. People are thinking about it. These numbers are a bit out of date, so I'll just give you the exact numbers. We have had 79 cases of blood clots out of the 20 million AstraZeneca vaccines given in this country. And of those 79, there have been 19 fatal blood clots. So that works out to one fatal blood clot in 19 out of 20, yeah, 1 in 1 million. So there are, but the clot, we know that COVID is a disease which causes clotting. So if you didn't have the vaccine and if you got COVID, then your chances of developing a clot are 3,000 per million if you were over 80, 400 per 47,000 per million if you got COVID. But we also have clots naturally occurring in people, and that is 3,000 per million if you are over 80, 400 per million if you are over 50. Pregnancy and taking the pill also quite risky events, and they can themselves cause clots, so about 200 per million. And
Dr. Siddiqi, do you mind just repeating with regards to the blood clots? Could you just repeat that information in Urdu as well, if possible?
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
कोविड से जो है आजकल बहुत न्यूज में एक चीज आ रही है, वो ये है कि क्लॉट्स बनते हैं। तो शुरू में ये सोचा गया कि एस्ट्राजेनेका वैक्सीन स्पेशली उसके लिए ज्यादा न्यूज है कि हो सकता है कि ये एक कोइंसिडेंट है, या यूं समझ लीजिए क्लॉट होना और वैक्सीन लगना दो अलग-अलग चीजें हैं और एक साथ हो गई हैं। लेकिन इसमें जब और आगे इसकी जांच की गई, तो फिर ये लगता है कि एक काफ़ी अच्छी पॉसिबिलिटी है कि इन दोनों में कोई एक लिंक है। तो इस वजह से जो है, अब एहतियातन इस कंट्री में 30 साल से कम उम्र के लोगों के लिए एस्ट्राज़ेनेका इस वक़्त पॉज़ कर दी गई है। तो हमारी कंट्री में एस्ट्राज़ेनेका वैक्सीन 20.2 मिलियन लोगों को अब तक लग चुकी है और इसमें 79 लोगों को क्लॉट बना है, जिनमें कि 19 लोग 19 की अनफॉर्चुनेटली मौत हो गई है क्लॉट से। तो अगर आप देखें 20 मिलियन में 20 के आसपास फिगर है, तो एक 1 पर्सन पर मिलियन के हिसाब से इसमें खतरा है कि आप को एक फेटल क्लॉट हो सकता है। लेकिन क्लॉटिंग जो है वो चीज सिर्फ एस्ट्राजेनेका वैक्सीन से नहीं होती है। ये जो कि हेल्दी इंडिविजुअल्स हैं, हम बहुत कॉमनली देखते हैं जनरल प्रैक्टिस में लोगों के पैरों में क्लॉट बन गया है या फिर उनकी लंग्स में क्लॉट बन गया है। तो अगर आप 80 साल से ज्यादा उम्र के हैं, तो ये रिस्क आपको नेचुरली बगैर किसी वैक्सीन के पर मिलियन में 3000 से ऊपर है। 50 साल की उम्र से ज्यादा अगर है तो 400 पर मिलियन है। और प्रेगनेंसी अपने आप में एक क्लॉट बनाने का उसमें एक रिस्क होता है। प्रेगनेंसी में क्लॉट हम देखते हैं, और जो आप अगर पिल ले रहे हैं कॉन्ट्रासेप्टिव पिल, जो कंबाइंड पिल है, उसमें भी क्लॉट्स बन सकते हैं। लेकिन कोविड जो है, कोविड एक क्लॉट बनाने वाली बीमारी है। तो इसमें जो लंग्स में आपकी चेंजेस आते हैं वो क्लॉट की वजह से आते हैं, और पूरी बॉडी में आपके क्लॉट्स बनते हैं बल्कि। तो अगर आपको कोविड हो जाता है, तब क्लॉट बनने का जो चांस है वो 47,000 पर मिलियन है, और एस्ट्राजेनेका वैक्सीन से जो क्लॉट बनने का चांस है वो 1 पर मिलियन है। तो इसका मतलब ये है कि हाँ, वैक्सीन के साथ जो अभी प्रॉब्लम्स आई हैं वो सीरियस प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, उनके ऊपर तवज्जो देना है, उनके ऊपर थोड़ा और इनको रिसर्च भी करनी है और ये देखना है कि एग्जैक्टली इसमें क्या वजह क्या है, और किन रीजंस की वजह से हो रहा है, तो फिर आगे चल के हम उन पेशेंट्स को या उन लोगों को कह सकते हैं कि आप लोग ये वाली वैक्सीन ना लें। लेकिन इस वक्त 30 से ज्यादा उम्र में देखा गया है कि ये क्लॉट ज्यादा बन रहे हैं, तो गवर्नमेंट ने इसके ऊपर रोक लगा दी है। लेकिन अभी भी गवर्नमेंट की एडवाइस यही है कि अगर आप 30 से ज्यादा के हैं तो आप एस्ट्राजेनेका लगवाएं, और अगर आप 30 से ज्यादा कम के भी हैं और आप पहले एक बार लगवा चुके हैं तो दूसरा डोज लगवा लें, क्योंकि दूसरे डोज के बाद क्लॉट अभी तक नहीं देखा गया है। Okay, shall I just continue in English now, or?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you very much for that, Zulfikar. Thank you.
So there are some myths around the vaccines, whether it contains pork cells and whether it contains fetal cells, and also whether there's any gelatin in it, and also about is it something very similar to the flu vaccine, which can have the pork stabilizer in the nasal flu vaccine. Why should I take the vaccine at all? I'm young and I'm healthy, and I won't get very seriously ill. So is it worth risking taking something which people don't know much about? And it's been manufactured really quickly, so has everything been looked at? Also some other myths about fertility, and it changes your DNA. The vaccine inserts a microchip inside your body, and something about 5G. So yeah, the government wants to control us by inserting these chips, which can be then monitored through the 5G network. At the time this was made, and I've tried to look for the latest figures, I'm getting a bit of conflicting ones, but we have had over 400 million COVID vaccinations worldwide. That figure is probably a lot higher now. So this is the only way out of this pandemic at the moment. So what can we do to help people take the vaccine and to address the vaccine hesitancy issues? We can educate them, we can talk to people who are trusted in the communities, and we can do webinars like this. We can put out some videos on YouTube and talk to people who know about the vaccination. So your GPs, your doctors, imams, and Ramadan is coming, so we also need to make sure that people don't. A lot of people are due their second dose in Ramadan, so to make sure people will go and get the second dose, so they're fully vaccinated rather than partially vaccinated, and so that they can have a safe Ramadan, and and safety onwards after this, and lots and lots of pop-up clinics have come up in mosques and community centers everywhere, and it's very widely advertised on social media, so people can go along there. There's no appointment needed most of the time, and you can have your vaccination. There's also some twilight clinics coming up during Ramadan where you can have your vaccine between Aftar and Sehri, so during the time when you're not fasting, so that even that small doubt which people have about getting the vaccine invalidating their fast, so that is also something that is being addressed. So you will hear more about these twilight clinics, and that's it. So I just want to end by talking about AskDoc, who we are and what we do. So a few years ago, in 2011, a few doctors came together in Manchester area, and we formed this organization which helps to address health inequalities. And this is some work that we have been doing before COVID. So at that time, we used to have seminars in mosques where we used to talk to people about screening programs, diabetes, heart conditions, and whatever the requirement was at that time. Once COVID came, we had to adapt, find new ways of working. So we've moved a lot of things online. We started by making videos in different languages. They're all available on our YouTube channel. So after this webinar, if you still want more information, you can go to our YouTube channel, have a look, and we have videos in many different languages, starting right from when COVID came along to what is COVID, to now when we talk about different vaccines and try and address vaccine hesitancy. So that is COVID. So that is AskDoc. And I am the secretary of this organization. And I used to make most of the Urdu videos for the organization. So that is me. And I am happy to take questions now.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Siddiqi. And I'm glad you did the little introduction at the end, because I apologize, I forgot to do that at the beginning before your slot. But now people know who you are. I do have some questions from the medical perspective, if you don't mind. I'll put those to you. They've been asked, well, people sent them to me, but I've also been asked them via the Facebook page. So you just mentioned there about hesitancy, or vaccine hesitancy. So in the, well, they call it the BAME community, and for Rochdale, that primarily consists of an Asian community. I don't know if there is a hesitancy, so because I'm not in the field, but you may well know, is there actually a hesitancy in our communities to take the vaccine? And if there is, what tends to be the reason, given that, as you explained, we are actually impacted the most out of the races that get COVID?
So there is a hesitancy, and we know that because of the figures, and those figures don't lie. So if you have, because the data is drilled down to really very fine details, and that shows the low uptake in the Asian communities. And when you talk to people, there are many different reasons, ranging from becoming infertile. That is one of the most common ones that I come across, because I'm a lady doctor, so women tend to ask me this question. And also to the microchip myth that is around. So there are some reasons why, and there's a general mistrust of the government. So if they are promoting something, then it must be something which is not right for us, or they have an ulterior motive for this. So those are the reasons.
Okay, thank you. And is there any base, for example, the infertility that you mentioned, does the data suggest, and could you answer that in Urdu as well, please, if you don't mind?
Okay, so English and Urdu, or just Urdu?
Just do the Urdu for this one, okay. I think, yes.
So वैक्सीन से एक बहुत कॉमन मिथ या एक अफवाह जो है वो ये है कि आप आगे चल के बच्चे आपके नहीं हो पाएंगे। अब ये कंफ्यूजन जो है ये शुरू ऐसे हुआ कि जो प्लासेंटा है उसका एक प्रोटीन जो बनता है वो जो वायरस का प्रोटीन है उससे थोड़ा मिलता जुलता है। तो लोगों को ये लगा कि अगर ये वैक्सीन वायरस को खत्म कर रही है तो उस प्रोटीन को भी खत्म कर देगी, लेकिन ऐसा हकीकत में कुछ भी नहीं है। वो दोनों काफी अलग प्रोटीन हैं और इनका आपस में कोई लिंक नहीं है। जब ये ट्रायल हुआ फाइजर का भी और एस्ट्राजेनेका का भी, तो बहुत सारी लेडीज ने जब वैक्सीन लगवा ली, उसके बाद उनकी वो प्रेग्नेंट हो गई, उनको प्रेगनेंसी हुई। तो ऐसा तो नहीं देखने में आया है कि वैक्सीन लगवाने के बाद आपको बच्चे नहीं होंगे, और कोई इंक्रीज्ड रिस्क ऑफ मिसकैरेज भी नहीं देखा गया। तो अगर किसी ने वैक्सीन लगवाई और उसके बाद वो प्रेग्नेंट हो गए और मिसकैरेज हुआ, तो वो मिसकैरेज भी उतना ही उसका रेट है जितना वैसे होता, जो नॉर्मल एक मिसकैरेज का रेट होता है। तो वैक्सीन की वजह से ना तो आप प्रेगनेंसी की प्रॉब्लम आएगी, ना ही आप का मिसकैरेज का कोई इंक्रीज्ड रिस्क है, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है।
Thank you for that. If anybody in the Zoom chat does want to ask a question, I'm sorry, I thought there was a raise hand function. I don't think there is. So if you would like to ask a question, you can just type in the chat to me, say I'd like to ask a question if you want to speak it, or you can type your question, either or. Whilst we're waiting for that to happen, I have one question which will be it'll be towards both of you, both Imam Sahib and yourself, Dr. Siddiqi. So the question would be from the Imam's perspective. So the concern of having the vaccine whilst fasting, people don't want to get ill. They don't want to miss a fast. So from a religious perspective, you've got the option of not taking the vaccine or delaying your appointment until after Ramadan versus taking the vaccine in Ramadan. Imam Sahib, if you can just take it from that angle, please.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. That's an interesting question, actually. The first thing is, Dr. Siddiqi can tell more clearly about how quickly we can rebook appointments. So I'm not exactly sure how quickly you're allowed to rebook appointments, but if someone wants to do this and they are able to rebook the appointment, then that's completely their choice. But you have to remember that there's no sin upon anyone who does break their fast after taking the injection. If they feel weak, a person you have to begin your fast, and even if you take the injection, you have no choice but to start your fast. But you have the option to, if you feel extremely weak or we can't continue with the fast, then you're allowed to break it. There's no sin in that. That's what I would say. But like I said before, it's not going to break someone's fast anyway.
Okay, thank you. And Dr. Siddiqi, could you tackle that from the medical perspective, please?
Yeah, I'll just say this in Urdu.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yes.
तो जहाँ तक रोजे का सवाल है कि आपका रोजा टूट जाता है या नहीं, इसमें दो चीजें बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट हैं याद रखने के लिए। एक तो कोई भी चीज जो आप मुंह से लेंगे और हलक के जरिए से आपके जिस्म में एंटर करती है, तो उस चीज से आपका रोजा टूट जाएगा। दूसरी बात, अगर आपको कोई चीज ऐसी दी जाएगी जो ग़िज़ा है, जिससे आपको ताकत आती है, जो आपके लिए फायदेमंद है, इन द सेंस आपको आयरन का इन्फ्यूजन लगा, तो इन चीजों से आपका रोजा टूट सकता है। लेकिन वैक्सीन ना तो आपके मुंह से जा रही है और ना ही आपको कोई ग़िज़ा दे रही है, तो इससे आपका रोजा नहीं टूटता है। अगर आपने वैक्सीन लगवाई और आपका रोजा टूट गया, तो आपके ऊपर कोई गुनाह नहीं है, आप अपना रोजा बाद में रख सकते हैं। रिगार्डिंग वैक्सीन की जो आपकी अपॉइंटमेंट है, उसको आगे बढ़ाने के लिए रमजान के बाद, तो देखिए डेटा जो है वो 4 से 12 हफ्ते का ही है। अब मोस्ट पीपल उनको 10 से 12 हफ्ते के बीच का अपॉइंटमेंट दिया गया है, जो कि बहुत सारे लोगों का रमजान में पड़ रहा है। तो अगर आप पोस्टपोन कराते हैं और 12 हफ्ते के अंदर है तो ठीक है, लेकिन उसके आगे इसका डेटा हमारे पास नहीं है ये बताने के लिए कि ये सेकंड डोज आपकी इफेक्टिव रहेगी या नहीं रहेगी। तो जहाँ तक पॉसिबल है आप विदिन 12 वीक्स अपना सेकेंड डोज लगवा लें, यही आपको सलाह हम लोग देंगे।
Okay, thank you. We've had a question in the chats. Would we need to have this vaccine every year? And will it be 2 doses going on? And I guess that comes into the boosters category as well.
Yeah, so what's happening at the moment is the what happened with swine flu, if you remember, that was towards the end of 2008, 2009. So that was a separate vaccine at the time when it came, when it started. Sorry, I just need to tell my husband not to do this drill right now. 1 second. Sorry about that. So that then got incorporated in your usual flu vaccine. So we still get it, but we get it with the flu vaccine. So the aim is that we will have it along with the flu vaccine, and if it's not possible, it will be a yearly booster dose. I doubt very much that we will still need 2 doses, but going forwards, as new variants come in, the vaccine will be tweaked again and again to deal with the new variants. So I think we are looking at this vaccine to be an annual vaccine, but for logistical reasons, to vaccinate an entire population once for the flu and then to vaccinate them for this COVID separately, it's probably better to have it all mixed in one. But that's just something that is work in progress.
Okay, Jazakallah, thank you. I have we've got a few more questions. So actually, one is just about, well, how would choosing, because at the end of the day, it is a choice. So, but how would choosing not to have the vaccine impact me, or just society in general? You know, what's at the end of the day, it is a choice. So, what if a number just chooses no, I'm not going to have it?
So there is a choice about having the vaccine. You can say no. There's no compulsion that you have to have the vaccine. What we know is the vaccine is highly effective in making your illness a much less severe illness, reducing the possibility of going into hospital, reducing the chances of ending up on a ventilator in the ICU, and drastically reducing your chances of dying from COVID. And that is the reason why we promote the vaccine. But there is no compulsion. You don't want it, you have thought about it, you have weighed up all the risks, and you think, no, my body can deal with it, and I will have, if I get COVID, I get COVID. That is fine. So there is no compulsion that you have to have the vaccine.
Thank you. And the other question, again related to the news, I guess, that has come out in this last week or so. So if people have had the AstraZeneca vaccine as their first dose, and now they've seen this news, can they have the Pfizer one second or the Moderna one as their second dose? Or and on top of that, can we just, of those who are still awaiting any dose, can they request to have one of the others?
Okay, there are two things here. One is this cohort of under 30s who have not had any vaccine. For them, at the moment, the government doesn't want to offer them AstraZeneca until we have a bit more clarity about the clots, the reasons why these clots are forming. And the cutoff has just been decided because it seems to be more in the under 30s. So that's the reason why it's been withdrawn from the under 30s for the time being. Now, if you are over 30, you will still be offered AstraZeneca or Moderna or Pfizer, depending on the availability of the vaccine. we all know that the availability is dependent on a lot of external factors, because there's a chain, a logistic chain in this, where ingredients have to be sourced from different countries. The vaccine is manufactured somewhere else. It has then got to be exported, imported by the United Kingdom. So whatever be the reasons, you will have some vaccine available. So whichever vaccine is available, that will be offered to you. You don't have a choice as such in which vaccine you will be offered as a first dose. Simply, if you are 30 and below, you will not be offered the AstraZeneca one. That's it. If you're 30 and above, you could have one of the three that are there. Now, mix and match, there is a study going on, but we don't know the results yet. At the moment, and that is what is current at the moment, the advice is, if you're 30 or below and you have already had the AstraZeneca as your first dose and you had no problems with it, you should go ahead and have the second dose also of the AstraZeneca vaccine. And that is the advice for all age groups, including the under 30s. Now, the only people who are really affected are those who've not had the vaccine at all, so they're not going to get the AstraZeneca. But I think those who've already had the AstraZeneca vaccine and are not, that's what we know at the moment. There's no plan to offer them a Pfizer or a Moderna for the second dose if they had no problems with the first dose.
Okay, thank you. Jazakallah khair. So with the Ramadan, obviously around the corner, inshallah, and many people having been vaccinated who will then turn up for the Tarawih prayer at the masjid. Do those people who've had the vaccine, do they still need to wear a mask and practice the social distancing, or are they okay to mix?
Okay, so having had the vaccine does not mean that we stop taking precautions. We still have to take.
Sorry, Dr. Siddiqi, sorry, could you answer that in order, please, if you don't mind?
Okay.
Thank you.
अगर आपको वैक्सीन लग चुकी है, चाहे वो एक डोज हो या दोनों डोजेस हो, आपको तब भी जो एहतियात है वो आपको बरतनी है. तो मास्क लगाना जरूरी है और 2 गज की दूरी भी रखना जरूरी है, सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग. और वजह इसकी ये है कि वैक्सीन लगने से आप जो है, अगर आपको वायरल इन्फेक्शन हो जाता है और आपको नहीं मालूम है, तो तब भी आप दूसरों को पास ऑन कर सकते हैं और आपको दूसरों से लग भी सकता है. वैक्सीन, लोग बहुत कॉमनली ये सोचते हैं कि हमें वैक्सीन लग गई है, अब हमें कोविड नहीं होगा, जो कि चीज गलत है. आपको कोविड तब भी हो सकता है, लेकिन ये कोविड जो होगा, ये एक बहुत मामूली सी माइल्ड सी इलनेस होगा बनिस्बत इसके कि आपको वैक्सीन लगी नहीं होती और तब कोविड होता, तो वो एक बहुत डेंजरस इन्फेक्शन, हाईली इन्फेक्शन, इस तरह का इन्फेक्शन जिसमें आप हॉस्पिटल में जा सकते हैं या फिर आईसीयू में. और चाहे आपने कोई सी भी वैक्सीन लगवाई हो, सारी वैक्सीन्स का एंड रिजल्ट जो हम चाहते हैं, और वो ये है कि अगर आपको कोविड हो भी जाता है तो वो इन्फेक्शन आपकी जान न ले और आपको इतना ज्यादा बीमार ना कर दे कि आप हॉस्पिटल में दाखिल हो जाएं या आईसीयू में हो जाएं. तो ये सारी वैक्सीन्स करती हैं. लेकिन बचना आपको तब भी है कोविड से, तो आप खुद भी बचिए, दूसरों को भी बचाइए. मास्क तब भी पहनना है और सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग तब भी करनी है, और ये चीज बहुत जरूरी है, इसको आपको कायम रखना पड़ेगा.
Thank you. And so the final question, Zalkar, thank you so much for that, Dr. Siddiqi. That's been very helpful. Imam Saab, the final question I'm going to end on is one for you, based just following up on what Dr. Siddiqi just said there. So next week we have the Tarawih prayer. Will our prayers still be valid if we are practicing social distancing?
Yes, I think that we've moved beyond this question, alhamdulillah.
Yes, alhamdulillah. But just in case some people may have asked that question, to be fair, so I just wanted to ask you to clarify that. Thank you. Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much to you both for coming on to this session and giving us that useful information. The video will be available on our Facebook channel, and inshallah we'll get that over to the YouTube channels as mentioned, for the masjid and also for AskDoc. And yeah, again at the end, just to say, AskDoc do have a very useful YouTube channel on which there are a number of videos in a number of languages. So these sessions that we've just had, they have taken place elsewhere at different masjids and community centers. So look on their YouTube channel. The chances are you'll find it in the language that you need. But we've reached the end of that session. Is there anything else either of you two would like to add before I close? I'll take the silence as no. Okay, Jazakallah khair, everybody. I hope that's useful for you. And if you have any further questions, feel free to pop them through to the masjid and we'll attempt to get those answered for you. But hopefully, I think we have covered everything that is of concern at this moment in time. Jazakallah khair. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.